So welcome along to the podcast. Today we're very privileged to have Derek Martin with us from Champion Lift Trucks. He's going to give us his own accounts from the sharp end of the wedge, if you like, through running a business of his own and dealing with thorough examinations out in the field. So welcome along, Derek.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem at all. So the main subject realistically is Regulation 10 of LOLA, which is obviously if you find any dangerous equipment, dangerous defects out in the field, that you have to report them to the local health and safety office or the local authority office. So what do your team actually do when they find any sort of defects like that?
Well, I think it might be worth going back to the start with this. We really didn't take this very seriously until it was hit home how serious it was for the engineer to report these faults. So I called a service meeting back in April, and I asked Matthew Kennedy, one of the technical managers, to come along and explain to the engineers from CFTS point of view, from an engineer's point of view, what the implications were. And that really, rather than me tell them and say to them, this is your legal requirement, this is what you have to do, and there being an order from the company, I asked Matthew to come and do it, A, as an engineer himself, and B, from the industry sort of leader in thorough examinations. So that's where we were then. From that, I then gave all the engineers a copy of the Regulation 10 section from the LOLA guidance, so that they actually had something they could show to the customer if any of these matters arose. And that really gave them strength then, that it wasn't a personal thing. It was a thing that they had to do by law anyway.
Of course, because that's the delicate situation. HSE can send out as many regulations as they like, but of course they don't have to deal with the customer firsthand. And instantly, just natural human nature is for the customer to take it very personal. And me being an ex-engineer as well, you find it's that delicate situation that the engineer or the competent person has on site. And some people, they can't do that very well. They can't articulate. And it does take a certain number or certain amount of tact when you talk to the customer. Once you explain, I think, what the regulations do require and the reason that we're doing it, we're not doing it to point the finger or to snitch on them as such. We're doing it for the safety of the whole industry and the safety of our end users, aren't we?
Very much so. Yeah. That's what we had to get across to the engineers. But also, they also had to understand their position within the reporting system. So, fortunately, from our point of view, we haven't had any situations where we needed to report it through. We have one situation where we had defects, but it was forks, and we replaced the forks immediately. So, with that in mind, we didn't take the truck out of action. We swapped some forks over with another truck that wasn't being used. So, we managed to get around that to the customer's satisfaction. And then what we did was we replaced the forks when we had more time.
Yes, of course. We've come across that quite a lot of times. A lot of the members will offer a service package. They will offer almost like a pre-thorough examination health check. So if you think there is going to be a serious defect, it's sort of a proactive approach that we get that replaced before the thorough such. With industry, that's why we don't see so many reports going in, is because we're very proactive on that report. We tend to get things changed long before they ever stage, because I think we'd be failing as a service provider if there was a lot of stuff like that in our industry, wouldn't we?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to preventive maintenance. So if the customer allows us to do regular checks rather than just do it once a year, then these things will get picked up gradually through the year. So you are being proactive on the servicing, and it doesn't come to a head, when the thorough examination is done.
That's very true. And your engineers as competent persons, how do you think them being accredited to CFTS helps? Do you think there's more support in the background, do you think?
Oh, very much so, yeah. I do believe, I strongly believe that it gives them authority to refer to the website or to give information paperwork-wise of anything to do with the thorough examinations, pure or Lola, and explain to the customer where, what the reason is for those sort of comments. So, yeah, it's a very, very it's a very strong organisation, and it carries a lot of weight, I believe, within the industry.
And I think, engineer, as you are too, the engineer field, and he will get that sort of relationship with a customer that on a regular basis. So when it does come to that dreaded time, if anything does fail, that they're a way or a decent way, because they tend to trust one another better.
Yeah, the only thing is, obviously, nobody wants to spend any money. So, the customer's always looking at it as an angle that, what are you trying to get at me this time? So that's where you've got to be very, very careful and explain to the customer that, if he'd have had this done 6 months ago, we wouldn't be in this position. But as I say, thankfully for us, we've not had any serious situations like that. If we get them, then one of us in the senior management would speak to the customer on behalf of the engineer and explain to him as well, rather than have the engineer being stood in a conflict situation with the customer. We would send forward, literature, etc., whatever we needed to do. We quickly get on the case.
Do champion, whether that be yourself or down to the engineer, would you know who and where to contact for HSE in the local area? Yeah, you've got all those details. Grand. Brilliant.
Yeah. Again, when Matthew came down to the service meeting, we went through everything, and we've been able to put things into place now to know what procedure to carry forward. As I say, we've got the Regulation 10 documentation, so we know it is a slight problem with each customer, because obviously some come under different authorities. So, we have to be mindful of that. But it wouldn't take us long to quickly source that information.
Brilliant. And it's nice to see that there's a proactive approach going on out there in the field. Sort of preset price within Champion. A lot of the members have changed the chains at 2.5% and changed the forks at 8%. Is that something that you guys adopt or not?
Yeah, obviously we do. But we would quote the customer. We wouldn't do it as a matter of course. We would quote the customer and say, because obviously all our engineers have done the CFTS thorough examination course. So they work within the parameters that they're instructed to do there. And obviously we use the CFTS paperwork. So
I think out there, because of course under Lowell, they're obliged to do it. There's no if, no but. And I think Matthew actually brings it up in his training. I know I do in mine, saying basically not prepared to send that report off, then don't become a competent person, because it goes with the job. It's not the best part of the job, shall we say, but it's still a relevant part that has to be done.
Yeah, but I also think it's up to the employer and the company to support the engineers.
Agreed.
And not send them out as cannon fodder and say, right, it's up to you to sort out the problems out there. We need to give them the information and the support that they need. Whether that be a quick phone call to the customer after we explain everything, or give them the paperwork to carry with them. So it's very important that they feel confident that we're working as one unit.
That's a great approach, and it gives me a heartwarming feeling to know that the engineer doesn't feel on his own when he's out there, because it can be a lonely time working from a van, of course, certainly in the winter months. So it's nice that they've got that support in the back office that they can always lean on. And of course, they can always lean on CFTS as well for plenty of support from the website, etc. But that's brilliant. That's brilliant, Derek. Thanks ever so much for your time today.
No problems at all.